How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to a new episode of Movies and More with Shivam Pota. I'm your host, Shivam Pota, and today we have a really exciting guest. He has shot one of my favorite films of 2019 and probably one of the most visually stunning films of all time, Monos. Please welcome cinematographer Jasper Wolf.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Welcome to our little podcast. It's an honor having you here. I, for one, am a huge fan of Monos and especially its amazing visuals. So let's start with how you got into film. So, how did you basically get into film and cinematography, and how did it become a lifelong passion for you?
Yes, I didn't come from a background of filmmakers, so um, how it how I think it organically started to come into my mind to become a cinematographer was that I started using these Super 8 cameras that I found on the in my grandfather's house, and my father used to have it, and I just started to make these little films and animations and clips of stuff, and then I started to make little stories with the Super 8, and of course it was a little bit expensive, so you were always had to be kind of taking care of what you were shooting, and semi-edited, and editing was like really like cutting it and putting little tape on it, so it was a whole craft. But I guess, and making photography, I was also interested in theater, and then I was like flirting with the idea to go to art school or maybe become a photographer, and then slowly I came to this realization that I could kind of combine it in this, and that there was such a thing like a film school. And then when I kind of discovered there was a film school, then I set my mind to go there and study filmmaking, and then I evolved into cinematography, and then I went to the film school in Amsterdam, where I'm still living in Amsterdam at the moment, and I became a cinematographer. And of course it was a passion thing, as you said. So that will always make me very happy that I can do what I like the best. And such a um, broad job. You can do so many things and combine so many things that I love, that I feel very happy with it.
What is one of your favorite things about being a cinematographer?
Yeah, I think like it's a combination of things, because you get to work with so many talented people and talented actors, and you can feel a little bit like an actor yourself when you're shooting, and be so close to creating something like a story that you feel it's very important to tell, and that you find a way to 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 make something, to create something that maybe people didn't see before, or to be imaginative. And I think this combination of like all these things that I find so inspiring, and that is like trying to is the kind of boiled down to this moment on a set when we are like kind of shooting the film and creating it. Yeah, I think that's my always my favorite, is in the end is like is the tension on the film set, creating, shooting a scene, being there with the actors and the director. But that said, like it also gives you this imaginative possibilities to travel and to see parts of the world, and to collaborate and learn and work with people that are from all over the world. Yeah, it's really amazing.
I couldn't agree more, especially with how rewarding the filmmaking process is. Being on set, working extremely hard, and then seeing the efforts that you've put appear in the final product is, yeah, there's no feeling like it. It's absolutely amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I love doing film, because just how
Exactly.
rewarding it can be.
And we were saying the other day with a filmmaker friend, and like also an actor, and we were having this conversation, like we are all, of course, like being cinematographer and actors, we are like real set animals, if you like. So we are also even scenes that sometimes don't make the cut, or like moments that are not fit in the final product or the final film. And it's that said, it's like extremely rewarding to see the final film and its magic. But even the moments on the set that we are creating that don't make the film because they don't fit, even there can be very dear memories to those moments or emotions that you went through with each other. So yeah, it's true. It's also the 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 film, the final film is it's very important, but also the creating aspect of it that we share is like gives us a lot of gives us a lot of drive and energy.
So, if you had to make a list of some films that you feel have the best cinematography, what films would you choose?
It's like it's that's such a hard question, but it's and there's so many films that I could like put on the list. Like I love the I I can tell you like the first time I went to this is a question you go to apply for a film school for the first time, and they ask you what was your reason, and then you think about it. And there's this very incredible Dutch filmmaker, cinematographer, Robbie Mueller. He passed away now, unfortunately, but he was shooting with so many incredible filmmakers, and he was a really big influence on me in the when I started out. Um, for all his work with Wim Wenders, with Lars von Trier, with Jim Jarmusch. He shot with a lot of different, very own filmmakers. But there's also like later I could tell you about how much I liked Christopher Doyle and Wong Kar-wai, or I can tell you about like the films of Terrence Malick that I loved, or Emmanuel Lubetsky, who was amazing, or Harris Safidis, the late American cinematographer. There's really many that I like, and also even from before that time or now, just try to be very open to a lot of influences. So a list of the top, I won't dare, but and it changes also over the time, and you get different influences or different things that you see and like, also like very unknown films or um, even maybe short films or art installations, anything.
Couldn't agree more. In terms of the ones you mentioned, Wim Wenders has his visual quality is very floaty and dreamlike, which is amazing. Wong Kar Wai has almost a poetic realism to every shot he tells. It's quite interesting, and Terrence Malick has a very calm sense of serenity into his cinematography. So, are there any current new and rising filmmakers that you'd love to collaborate with? Any filmmakers and cinematographers that any new filmmakers and cinematographers that you're quite a fan of and you're quite excited to see where their career goes?
Definitely, I was like, I would of course put Alejandro Landes there with, um, yeah, it would be, and but also like for example, the last film that I now comes to mind is the Safdie brothers with their film with Uncut Gems to see what would be the next step they're going to make. I really admire the work of this Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos. Like he's every film that he made is like incredible, and I would always be very eager to see what his next film would be, and of course these are the filmmakers that you would dream of working together with, or there's there's many uh, filmmakers, contemporary filmmakers, if you would say. Um, and yeah, it would be amazing to see what it would lead to.
Those are excellent picks. I have to say, the Safdie brothers currently are one of my favorite new talents in terms of cinema. The way I saw them first with Good Time, then I slowly got more in. Then I obviously Uncut Gems is blew me away. I've seen that like 4 times now, and I've also delve deep into the documentary work, their short film work, and some of their more lesser known features. And they're definitely going to be one of the biggest voices in Hollywood coming forward, especially in the art house and indie scene. Um, their film Good Time even inspired one of my first short films, very directly. So that was, yeah, they have a big inspiration on me. And Yorgos Lanthimos, I have to agree, is just so unique. Every one of his films, whether you like him or don't like them, you can't deny how undeniably original and unique they feel. There's
Exactly.
something so otherworldly and alien like to his craft, how weird and quirky it is, but doesn't feel heavy handed in its weirdness or quirkiness. It feels very natural.
Yes, and it's so own, and I think that's also what attracts me very much to these filmmakers is that you can feel that they have their very own process or method, if you want to, and they're chasing this. Uh, yeah, they're just chasing this film that they have in their mind that have to be get, which is what I like. That you, for example, the Uncut Gems, or even all the other films as well, they can feel this already in their earlier work. Is this this energy that they're chasing, and this eye for detail, and yeah, no, very well put how you explain this. But they're great.
One thing that is striking about the Safdie brothers, and this connects into Monos, is that the use of non actors is very clever. When I was watching Monos, the way the non-act, the first-time actors were used, um, did remind me a bit of like in terms of the Safdie way, how they have street casting. They just cast regular people, people that are similar backgrounds to those in the film,
Yeah,
and just shoot for the moon. And like that worked amazingly in Monos, and it works amazingly in the Safdie projects. Sometimes getting first time and non actors can be a very big risk for like established projects. There are like a lot of blockbusters that do that, and it doesn't work. But in terms of indie filmmaking, I've never seen it not work basically, and especially in Monos because the acting across the board in Monos is insane. You cannot tell who's professional and who's not because everyone is just on their A game.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think
So
so too. Yeah.
when you're looking for a new project, what is the first thing you notice? Like what are some things that draw you into a new project?
Yeah, I would say like it's of course the filmmaker that kind of attracts you, but it's the script then. So it's like it's always a combination of the script and the content and the ambition of the filmmaker that approaches you. So like in case of Monos, for example, it's like I had seen Alejandro's earlier work, so I knew that I liked his approach to cinema, if you like. But then when I read the script, then I was immediately in love, and I knew that this was a very important film and that I really wanted to be part of it. So I think those are the two key ingredients that it attract me to collaborate on a film. I have to believe and feel that it's a very important film on a human level, and uh, and 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 the ambition of the filmmaker is very important for me. So we strive to do something outstanding, and we want to do something which um, yeah, without sounding crazy, but like and because of course there's so much out there, but at least to have the ambition to do something which people didn't see much, or is new in some way, or at least for us, so we can advance our art and push it as far as we can get it, um, and try to overreach and just to be the best of ourselves. So I think that's kind of the ideal package that you find in in how you meet a filmmaker or a director to work with, and the script is very important because like you can and you have to admire script writers because it's such a difficult art, and of course there's a lot of influences from all the filmmakers when you start a project, and that's also one of the big assets of working with a director who's also writer or co-writer of the script, is that there is this openness still that things can change, and there is a dynamic that things will always improve and always evolve during the filmmaking process. And I think that's always a luxury to be part of. um, yeah.
That's that's quite a unique way of looking at things, and I do agree that you have to look at each new project as a way to improve, but also how interesting and how unique is the voice of what you're working on. Um, I do want to ask before we move more into the monos based questions. As you're a cinematographer, what is your thoughts on the digital versus shooting on film debate? Which side do you lean towards, and what is your experience between on modern digital cameras versus the classic film cameras?
Yeah, it's not. I don't choose a side. I think what I love is that it's available, and then there is we living in these exciting times, that there is this very fast evolving in techniques, and the digital cameras, they getting better and better, and they're amazing. And I would say if you have control over your craft and over your circumstances, you can reach and be equally good on each medium. I think it's really like a preference for a project. I love to shoot on film. I still love to, I'm being trained, and like as I told you, I always was used to shoot film from a kid on, like with Super 8. So I love the feeling of it and the textures, and it's a personal thing. Like working with directors that are still in love with film, I like, because that's like a method, and it's a focus. It's a combination of um, yeah, you can maybe compare it with, like, you shoot something, and then after it's developed and it's scanned, you get it out, and you get the rushes, and then it's kind of opening a present, and you see all this. And sometimes there's maybe an unpleasant surprise or something, like a mistake, and something that is yeah, can bother you, because that's of course the advantage of digital cinema now. Is like every mistake or fault is like obviously watchable, and you can screen that on the set, so at the end of the day you will know what you have in the can. You can see it on a big monitor, and you know what you have, and it's safe. And with, of course, with film it's different. These days there's not so many labs anymore. The logistics are more complicated for the production, so you have to fight a bit to get that. But still, if you dedicate yourself to shooting on film, it's great. um, and then there's also ways to kind of like, maybe on an aesthetic level, uh, I love the textures and the colors that I'm used to getting from shooting film. So honestly, I'm always in, from the first time shooting digital till now. My whole development is kind of started with finding a way to mimic the all the knowledge we have of of how the film would look being shot on film, to mimic this into a lookup table, or a look that we can apply on a digital image. I love to shoot with Alexa, because that was the first digital camera that I really embraced and that I liked. So I always kept, and I think it's one of the best cameras. It's very instinctive for me. Now it's the large format, or the mini large format camera that I shoot with a lot. If we cannot make shooting film, I also did films in a combination, that we like the aesthetic of Super 16. So then the best way is to shoot Super 16. If we like the aesthetic of Super 35 2 perf, or then let's first try to shoot it that way. But if it's like not possible, like for example with monos, we are also trying to shoot 35 because both me and Alejandro shot his first feature on anamorphic 35, so that was his dream, and I I loved it as well. It would have been great also for the colors and like the textures that we were after. Um, but of course, on the practical level, we were such a contained location in the mountains, like very far away. There was not a lab in South America that we could use. We had to go to Mexico or to Europe. Like it would have been such a hard logistics for production, such a heavy burden to follow that road, and then given the fact that we were shooting almost everything with a natural light, um, I felt very confident that we could use the digital camera to get the same textures, the same colors that we would have got with the film camera. Only you have to know, or you have to choose what to work for, or what's your goal. So what I also did and do still do many times is that you shoot even like analog stills, or maybe you shoot some references on film, so you know what your goal is, and that helps when making a lookup table or a lot with very talented colorists that I work with a lot, and there's many in the world that I think are chasing the same. Um, Getting all the knowledge that there was from 100 year plus making film negatives and putting that into a color space that you can use on digital cameras. So I don't think it's really a debate. It's more like you have like opportunities, possibilities, and it's choices, and you can mix it. You can either go either way, and I think there's a lot interesting choices for us now. Um, Also light wise, and yes. So yeah, I think both is great.
From from watching Monos, at first I thought it was shot on film because the post production team did such a great job at recreating the filmic look, the grain and texture in post. But I do see where you're coming from regarding how remote you're filming and how you relied on natural light, and in those regards film can be a challenge to shoot on. For me personally, I've only worked on digital mainly because on short, like very small, practically no budget films, getting a film camera and stock, especially in Singapore, is quite a challenge. On top of this, there are no scanning places in the entire country, so I'd have to ship it to Europe or America for a few hundred or even 1,000. But film is definitely something I'd love to play around with in the future because it just seems that it would give a very fun experience on set.
Yeah, it's true, and it's also like, for example, if you would um, last last year I shot a feature, and we wanted to shoot for Super 16 because of the aesthetic of and yeah, the look of Super 16. And then if you want to mimic that on a digital camera, and you don't have a reference, you would not closely go that far, because if you put it on a screen next to each other, you would start to notice how soft in focus and in latitude the Super 16 is in the end, because it's such a small negative in compare. So you have to kind of damage and break it down fairly a lot to get into the same um, yeah, in the same feel and texture. So yeah, for that reason it's interesting. But it's I would completely recommend to do it, and it's a really lovely way to shoot.
So now let's discuss probably your most popular work, the cinematography for Monos, which I thought was absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
So, while shooting and planning Monos, what were the priorities you had in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a really nice preparation. We were in Medellin in Colombia, in a very nice house where we could kind of uh, shotlist the film. We had visited the locations, so we knew, and then I think the priority was just like making the film that we had in our mind, and me and Alejandro Landes, the director, we just worked on the shot list. And then, of course, we knew that, or I knew that the locations would be very demanding, especially the jungle, very contained. So I had to kind of limit the amount of equipment that we knew. Yeah, we had set our mind on the fact that we wanted to shoot with available light as much as possible. And the priority was like, I guess, the finding the language, finding the right operatic of the camera. We talked about and tested, and how to move the camera, how to be to make a group the main character, the location the main character, and how evolve from that to more the inside of the um of the characters. And I think moving the camera was a big priority because of the landscape, the the roughness of the land. It was very steep in the mountains, the jungle. The floor was very uneven. We had, of course, the river, which was an amazing character in the film as well. How to move the camera in the water, how to approach underwater. So yes, that's, I think, where a lot of but there were a lot of priorities we had to figure out and test a lot. Um, what was great is that we also had or Alejandro and Alexis, the co-writer, they had set up this training camp with the actors, which was also on our main location where we could visit them, and we could watch how the rehearsals were going. We could see them being trained by the military trainer who also plays like the mensajero or the messenger in the film. He's like he was also the one who did all the military training with the actors. Yeah, so there were a lot of priorities to cope with, but yeah, we had barely enough time, but I think we managed well.
From what you've told me, it seems that the pre-production for Monos is very unconventional compared to most pre-production stages. From the training camps up in the mountains with Wilson Salazar, who was the military person, to trying to figure out how to shoot in the jungles, the mountains, and like the insane environments throughout. So, what was it like working with Alejandro Landes compared to the other directors you've worked with? How did your collaboration feel different in comparison to other filmmakers that you've collaborated with?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like I think we were just a really good match, and we had a very inspiring collaboration. It was also um, it was just remarkable that we started, and then it felt really soon as if we have worked together already for a long time. So that I won't think it's completely different than with filmmakers that you work with a lot. I think what makes him also a remarkable and filmmaker is that he has a very strong vision and is very open and curious at the same time. So to um, I think, and that's something that I think we shared, is that you have this endless energy to search and push further to see if there's anything more that maybe can be even better than um, what we thought of or that we what we envisioned. But um, and we both liked, and I think he's very strong in that, is to really very encouraging and inspiring to really put yourself to what you believe in, and you stick with it, and make it make it worthwhile. So he's very uh, visual, obviously. Um, so I guess um, it was just a really good combination, and I think we just could really uh, stand stand behind him and push him in this beast of a film. It was a big battle, of course. There were so many challenges, and he always yeah, talks about the film as a beast. But yeah, that's what it was, like a beast of a film.
I mean, watching Monos is an extremely visceral experience, and it is a challenging watch at points. So yeah, calling such insane film a beast feels very appropriate. Um, I with the visual language of the film, how was it craft? How did you craft the visual language? What influenced the visual style of the film? Was a lot of the influence mainly from you, or was it also a bit from Alejandro, or was it sort of like a partnership effort in terms of crafting the way the film looked?
It was like reading the script and also like the director's statement and talking with Alejandro and also with Alexis, the co-writer, is like um, they're incredible filmmakers. So when we start conversation, there's like all these ideas on the table already, and they have been writing the script for years. And writing a script is also like an envisioning of the film, um, because they're not only writers but real filmmakers and directors. So that means the starting point of joining their or being invited in their conversation of the filmmaking process is already on a very high level of of thoughts about how the film should look. And but then of course it starts and to make it concrete, and then there is this um, and then we just started. And then the way that the process goes is that we just start to analyze the script, or not to maybe to analyze it in an in an in a like a academic way, but more like into to try to speak the same language and have the same dreams, and to understand where they're coming from, and giving them all my ideas and all how it came across to me, and my what inspires me, and what how I would see it. And then you start to talk also, of course, because you want to share language. So you start to bring visual references, and they already had some amazing research, and they had a lot of amazing research actually. So, like, I think the first things that Alejandro gave me was a couple of books to read up about Ingrid Betancourt, the Colombian politician who was kidnapped, and but also another book, a diary from an American um, man who was also kidnapped. And these diaries and these experiences of living in the jungle, um, and there are all this research about the kid soldiers, these rebel groups, like starting with to fill your fill your knowledge with all this info. That really helps me and inspires me a lot. And then from there we go into aesthetics, and but also from the inside out, and the desire to make a film from the inside out with from the perspective of these kid soldiers, if you like, but also from a bigger sense, to be open for abstraction. um, I think that's where we started the conversations, and then we just went through the whole script, and started to make a visual script, and that's what we call shot listing. And we went from the beginning to the end, back to the beginning to the end, and we just kept going this process till the end of our shooting. Also because the we didn't have enough time to finish the whole shot listing before the film, but also because of course there were situations of and things that changed, and they were very open in this collaboration. And so yeah, I think I like to think about it in the end as a big partnership, um, and a symbiotic collaboration. Um, but definitely Alejandro had a very strong vision. It's like, I don't know if you saw his first film, um, but there you could already tell that he likes to approach like things in a in a yeah, in a strong way, in a very deliberate way of how the language should be. So the search or the development of this language, or this identity, actually, more as we talked about it, the visual identity of a film, that's the most exciting and interesting part. And then of course the 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 to create this, and on a table or on a location together, that's amazing. But then also then you get the part of like the execution of this in that was of course, especially in a film like Monas as well, very exciting part, because there's also a lot which is very instinctive and rage and sense driven, and those moments you have to create on the set with these actors in the heat of the moment, and that's also what we enjoyed a lot. And I think that's the combination um, which makes the visual identity. Yeah, that's a long answer, but I hope this is a bit giving you a little bit more insight on our way of working.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, the answer is perfect. When rewatching Monos, I was reminded of the Belarusian slash Russian anti-war film Come and See. Did
Oh
that
yeah,
did that film ever come up in your discussions regarding crafting the visual style or the aesthetic or the visceral nature of your visual language?
definitely. That was definitely one of the main visual references, um, and which Alejandro and Alexis came with Come and See, which is like, yeah, the best, or one of the best, or definitely the best war or incredible war films. So that was uh, definitely one of the influences. Also, we talked about still photographers, art, um, like filmmakers, like maybe in a different aspect of like Steve McQueen, like Jonathan Glazer, who is like of course amazing. So there were like war photography. Yeah, we had a lot of inspiration on different aspects. But Come and See was, and we also like uh, like Alejandro also said, in like of course we also had to be loyal to the fact that Monos is still also in a tradition of a war or anti-war film. In that aspect, we watched, of course, or rewatched like Apocalypse Now from Coppola. We rewatched together like Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Not that it's that those are clear references at all, I think, but it's mostly just to because it's like great just to watch films of this quality together and to be re-amazed by it and seeing it in a slight different eye, because you are now creating your own film, and you're together in the screening. But Come and See was definitely an important one.
I feel Come and See might be one of the most haunting and traumatic film experiences one can even experience, as it is just brutal. It's a full attack on the senses. It's essentially like you're stuck in a nightmare while watching it. Um, so I could definitely see how Monos was influenced at points by Come and See. Can you give us a brief walkthrough of how like the filming of Monos from the very first day to the very last, and were there any sort of crazy days throughout filming that stand out to you?
One of the things was is to the starting point was to try to be in a certain chronological order of the script. So the film, and the shooting of the film starts in the mountains, like in the film, and the first scene, the game is the first day of shooting. Um, then we then we shot a lot of training scenes, which didn't make it in the film, but were still very important as a backstory. And there are some bits and pieces of it, like the capoeira scenes. This was shot after they just did this kind of brutal training day when we were like smashed by the wind. So just to tell you a little bit about the location was found at 4,000 meters in the mountains, like 2 hours above Bogota, the capital. And this area was never used in the film before. It was like a nature park. There was this bunker, or actually it was an old mine, but in the film it plays out as the bunker that the guerrillas are taking shelter in. And this 4,000 meter is like there's not that much oxygen, so it's like it's pretty brutal to do exercise there in the first place. And we were there, and they were just smashed away by the weather, and we just had to push it a little bit further. And then, of course, as it luckily happens in these kind of extreme shooting days, a group gets into this kind of euphorical feeling that they managed to nail the scene. And then they started to do this kind of play, this kind of capoeira, because one of the kids, he could do it, and then they start doing it, and they start shadow boxing, and we were just there with a very long lens starting to shoot it, and it became a great scene. Just to give you an example, or that even scenes that didn't make it in the cut, that they always have, or our feeling was that they would lead up to something. So this was the beginning of the shoot, I would say. Then we, in the mountains, the whole situation in chronological order with the cow. The cow was, of course, very emotional moment. The the death of the cow, the moment with the whole suicide scene with Lobo, with Wolf, with the leader. Um, I think those are like were all incredible moments in the mountains. Also the big fight in the trench that the production design did amazing work. They made the trench there. It's very hard to dig in this landscape. They made this amazing bunker. All these scenes there with the explosions, those were also quite tough. There was this, we did big shootouts that also didn't make it in the film, but again, it just gave these the actors the sense of that they were in the end, or not in the end, but not to forget, they were soldiers. They were shooting. They were carrying around AK-47s. They were so again, these scenes didn't fit in the film, but they did definitely contribute uh, to the sense of the film and what we did. And I guess it radiates through the film. And then I would say halfway we moved to the jungle. So this was a big company move. We had to take everybody and go to Medellin, the second city of the country. And from Medellin we went um, with a 4x4. We had to drive like, I don't know, 3 hours, and then another hour on a very bumpy road. Then we would hike down. Um, all the equipment had to be traveled with donkeys on a different trail, donkey trail, which would lead to our location. It's 3 hours with the donkeys, but we and the cast would walk down to a river for about an hour, and then from that we would take a raft on the river for another 20 minutes, and then we would arrive to the location. So this location was properly contained, and of course, we decided to stay on the location for the whole shoot. So, of course, producers and some crew that but came and went. They visited us, but we, the main crew, all the cast, we all stayed on this jungle location for, I would say, 3.5 weeks in the end. Um, Again, this experience is to be on this location for such a time together. There was this great um, camp was built, like a proper guerrilla camp, if you want. There were big army tents. There was a big tent, um, just like an army would have. This was all prepared by the location department. So when we arrived, this was already. Um, all the actors they stayed in a big army tent all together as a group. For example, me and my focus puller, we stayed um, in a small tent, and there was Alejandro and our first AD. They also stayed in a little tent, and then we had uh, Julian Nicholson in her own tent. So there was this whole base camp in the jungle. I think remarkable days to think about were the um, I would say the ending where we have Pitufo tied up to a tree. This was a very emotional moment to shoot, but there's many I could tell you about. Of course, we had we were very lucky to have um, Peter Sugarini, the underwater cinematographer, to come and join us. He came to the jungle with his assistant to help us to shoot all the underwater shots and river scenes. This was also really really tough but really amazing experience. First of all, to have this, like, one of the top underwater cinematographers to work with us and to help us to get all the shots that we wanted. Um, the killing of the killing of Lady, the scene with Julian Nicholson, is also like a incredible experience. It was very tough. We had to go 3 times back to that location. It was a very remote location. We had to go with canoes, walk through the steam with all the equipment on our back, and then get there in this beautiful little little bay, which was very clear water, which was really, really, really good for the scenes. So we were able to shoot everything in the nature like we wanted. This is one of the assets that we were going for, to shoot everything on location. Um, but it was tough, and we could definitely have never reached this quality without Peter with his equipment. So those were very very special days. Of course, I have to mention the river, like the ending. This was very big challenge as well, to find a location, to figure out how we would do it. Like the big escape in the end when Rambo and jumps into the river, and then he's followed with Bigfoot and Boom Boom, and they both also jump the river, and they go through this crazy. And many people would always ask, how did you do it? So the answer is, we had this amazing canoe team, which were also, this was the Olympic Colombian canoe team, and they were with us as our stunt team, and they knew this river
Wow.
very very well. They were also the ones to point this river out to Alejandro. So they knew this river, and they pointed out this location, which they found safe for the actors to go through, as long as they would stay in the middle, and they would secure them, of course, and they trained them. So we had the opportunity to shoot this for real, and the actors were so brave and willing to do it, this stunt. So that was our secret, or it was not a secret, but that was the that's how we could do it. So that, to shoot those scenes and then to succeed and have that in the can, that was also those were also amazing moments. Yeah, I think so. Then in the end, just to sum it up, we finished the jungle after 3.5 weeks. We came out on a raft because that was the quickest way to get out. So we just all the equipment went back on the donkey trail, but all the crew and the cast went all together on these big rafts. And as a group of rafts, we just went down the river for 3 hours, just on this amazing raft. Uh, yeah, I would say would pay people would pay big money to do this wild nature ride on these rafts. But this was the ending of our jungle shoot, and then when we came out, I guess there was this big uh, relief of everybody realizing that after 3.5 weeks of not speaking to their family, because you have to understand there was no phone connection. There was like one satellite phone, which worked for emergencies, uh, but for the rest, you were just cut off. Then we still had to do yeah, a small part of the film, the end, in which we find Rambo after an escape in the fisherman's house, which of course was still very exciting um, part where we wanted to do this one taker in when when they find her in the house, and they enter the house. We wanted to do this in one shot, so we had to rehearse that a lot and figure out how to do it. So that was another week or so to finish the movie. Yeah, and that was that.
You mentioned the river rafting sequence. when watching the film for the first time, I was just sat there like, this can't be real. How are they managing to, you know, it's an insane stunt. Something that, like, you'd hear it's levels of like Tom Cruise insanity, just absolute madness. And I was sat there like, wow, I need to find out how that was done. So I'm
Yeah.
very glad to finally get to the bottom of how such a insane sequence was done. So, as you mentioned, you were filming thousands and thousands of feet high in the mountain. And I've read that in the mountains and jungle, there wasn't much running water or electricity or refrigeration. And as you mentioned, not barely, no, basically no cell signal whatsoever, as well as I heard you had to ration food on set. So that all these conditions sound insanely harsh. What were the biggest challenges that those conditions created, and what were some of the craziest things that happened because of the harsh conditions?
Yeah, there is, like, of course, with every as you know, with every movie there's always a lot of stuff that happens, and it's kind of, so you adapt pretty quickly to the fact that it's your new normal. So, like, working at, for example, the beginning of the movie in this kind of height in, 4,000 meters, and uh, very quickly changing weather, is that you have to adapt to it. That's the only thing to that you can do. So we were always on the lookout in the schedule wise, working together with our first ID, Alex, who was amazing, and also a true filmmaker. So what it would mean is that you would be open to change the schedule very quickly and radically if there would be a weather change. So, for example, we knew we wanted to use this amazing mist that can suddenly come in the mountains, and also can be very annoying, of course, because you're in the middle of a scene and then suddenly the mist comes. Then, of course, your continuity will be completely blown away. But these or the mist was like something that we wanted to use in our film because it's so amazing. But at the same time, sometimes you just want to see that you're on top of the world, and you want to see this incredible sight and how far you can look, and that you feel that you're very high up and that you're actually above the clouds. Um, so we had to adapt to the weather and change it. And sometimes we were just smashed away. There is the scene, very delicate scene, beautiful scene between Rambo and Lady, and or sorry, Sweka, and they were at the campfire after, and they, sitting there together, and the weather was just smashing in on us. It was raining, and it was freezing. It was cold, and had to escape. And then, lucky enough, we had a cover set in the bunker, so we could, go and hide inside of the bunker and do the close-ups there. But yeah, you have to be aware that sometimes the elements are just too tough on you, and you have just the only thing is to escape and then come back and redo it, a second time when the circumstances are better. And we got a lot of luck, and we're always called ourselves a blessed, like a blessed production, because you can use, if the sun comes out and you are quick, you can capture it. Then it's just striking. And so yeah, in the jungle, there was also in the jungle there was also like this rain, and that was great because it always rained at night, and then in the morning everything would look really nice and beautiful, but then it would dry up really quick, and the look of the jungle would completely change. But one of the bad side effects of rain, and that was, I think, the biggest danger, um, is that you get mudslides, or that you get that because we are kind of at the floor, we are very close to the river, but of course it's still like mountains around you. So, the mudslides and the risk that, like, the river would change, or that it would become very fast, or uh, that was something that we had to be aware of. And I never felt unsafe because, like, we had this, as I told you already, the the canoe team. They knew the location very well. We had an amazing crew. Also, we were supported by locals, by actually by a community of gold miners who live in the forest, and who actually, and this is a remarkable story as well. After we found the location and we came back to the location to do the technical recce, as we call it, the explanation or the scout to the rest of the crew. So we came there again, and then we noticed that the location was squatted now by these local inhabitants of the forest, of the jungle, these gold miner community who were working there, and they just took over the location and they just smashed it completely. They put their houses on it, so they smashed it because they want to. They smash it just because of the animals. So they have children there, so they want it to be safe for their kids. So that's the reason why they smash the location if they live there. So there is no plants. But that was our location. So that in the beginning there was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What a disaster. But that turned out to be, again, that turned out to be our luck, because the location manager and the producer, they talked with the people and they were very willing, and they were coming and helping, starting to help us, and they offered them a job to work for us in the production. So they worked with us, and they actually helped building a base camp. And lucky enough, we found an even better location a little bit further on. So in the end, it was perfect. So the old location became the base camp. Um, the gold miners, they became part of our crew. Of course, they had a lot of knowledge about the about the forest, about the animals living there. They could secure us, help us with carrying stuff on very very steep hills. So that was, and also it gave a lot of insight. And they mixed with the actors and with the crew, so it gave another dimension of reality, I would say, to the film, that we were kind of. So it was really lovely to have them being part of the movie. Yeah, I think so. In the end, and I think maybe that's also my personal story, but yeah, I never feel unsafe, because I feel we have these very skilled people around us that worry about all these things, and it gives me the freedom. And I'm sure Alejandro, the director, felt the same, to just worry about the filmmaking and not too much about the the uh, the unsafety of the stuff that we are doing, or what happens around us. Yes, so that's yeah, that's it, I think.
So, aside from the gold miners shock, were there any other big shocks that happened on set? I read somewhere about the director one day waking up and feeling paralyzed. Were there any other crazy shocks that happened?
Yeah, that was a story. Yeah, one day in the jungle. Um, I woke up and I found we there was this small panic, because we found Alejandro and he was like walking, yeah, with this terrible stomach pain. So, like I explained a little bit about how remote we were from the closest hospital. The emergency plan was that there would be like a helicopter from the army coming if there was like a real emergency. But it was raining; it was pouring of rain, so they were not able to assist us. So the producer was on the phone with his satellite phone, um, and yeah, I just had to hear the army tell him that they were not able to rescue. So Alejandro was there. We were really really worried that he would that it was maybe an appendix. And then you have like basically you have like 4 hours before it can get really really serious. So the solution was, in the end, and again the gold miners and our grips came to the rescue to carry Alejandro down, bring him in the canoe on the raft, and then just carry him up on the hill for an hour, and then bring him with a car to the closest hospital. So that would take 3 hours. So that would be, if he would decide to do that quickly, he would be in time. So the decision was made. So, and that was indeed a bit like an apocalypse now moment, a heart of darkness moment where Alejandro was being carried away. We were there, not knowing if he would come back, or what, how serious it would be, or what to do with the production. So we decided to just to shoot pickups and shoot like some smaller some smaller stuff, just to keep shooting. Very worried, and then of course we heard the good news that there was nothing serious. Actually, the weird thing was that when he arrived after 3 hours and he came to the hospital and he was there, and then he just immediately kind of was feeling relieved and felt better. So lucky enough, or actually the hospital was trying to keep him down there for a couple more days to because of course he was exhausted, and it must have been exhaustion or something like that happened to his stomach, or maybe there was something in the food. Lucky enough, he just came back after a day. So then him coming back to the camp was like a heroic moment, of course, for everyone. So we were very very happy, and then we just pushed on and went on, and he had to recover a little bit. But no, that was a scary moment when he was going down and just going in the canoe, and we had eye contact, and he waved at me and waved at us. It was like, wow, what's going to happen? But also this one, yeah, we encountered. So he came back, and we continued the shoot. Lucky enough. Yeah. So yeah, those moments we will never forget.
I mean, that does sound insanely frightening. Thinking that your director might have completely, like his appendix could have burst. That does sound very terrifying. Um, so as you mentioned, we discussed the river rafting sequence. Were there any other sequences that you thought were very difficult to shoot?
Mm, yeah, I would. We have this. I think there were a couple of sequence shots that we had in mind. We wanted to make these kind of um, sequence shots coming from one location. Actually, we wanted to make this sequence shot with a seamlessly cut from the transition from the mountains to the jungle, which starts up in the bunker, going all the way up. Then we suddenly find this guerrilla army heavily wounded. And we go to Doctora's cell. Then we go up and go to the plastic of the bunker, and we find ourselves into the jungle, in the middle of the escape of Doctora. This elliptical sequence shot um, that we wanted to do. That was a challenging shot, of course, because there was in the bunker all this big crowd of extras, all in blood and prosthetics, and there was and this is a special story also I want to share, is the this this nature park, or this location where we found the bunker. This was like owned by a family living in this in the mountains, and this family had like the grandfather, and I think he was 80 something, maybe even he was 90, and before we got to, um, we got permitted to shoot in this location. Alejandro had to talk with the family and actually persuade them, because they were not really keen on a film shoot with explosions in the mountain and the army, and didn't sound well to them. So they were actually saying no. But so he got them to meet, and he went there, and he talked with the family and explained them, and and convinced them. And also he found there this their grandfather, and the grandfather was singing, and he found it so strikingly beautiful that he wanted to adapt and to get that into the film. So in the first part of the sequence shot I was telling you about, in the guerrillas, there is this old man in a wheelchair in the back, and he's actually singing this song to the soldiers to give them strength and courage to continue the battle. But the man didn't. It was the first time, I think, for a very long time that he was coming to this location, and he was in a wheelchair, and this is a location in the mountains, and especially the bunker is very very hard to access. So that was like also a big a big um, a big thing to get him into the location in the army dress to sing his song. But he did, and it was a magical moment. Um, but it was really really tough to get everything in place and to get it right, and something to be very proud of. And that's one of the things also that, yeah, that it's very admirable the of the spirit and the belief that Alejandro can put, if this he knows that this would be such a special thing, and then he just made it happen, and convinced the man to come and join us and be there in this bunker and sing this song, in the middle of this scene of all these soldiers and craziness. Yeah, seems like a small detail, but it was a real big thing.
It must have felt very satisfying to have the person that sort of owned the land you were shooting on to appear in the film, almost as if he was giving the production his blessing to a certain degree.
Exactly, completely. Yeah, yeah, that was the complete thing.
So, as we're talking about the locations, you mentioned that the locations you filmed in were never shot on before. So, how did it feel to be, the first person to shoot such amazing locations? And did you ever just sort of get lost in the beauty of the environment?
No, I think that's something that we wanted to. Of course, we were amazed, and many times you're like I cannot believe my eyes to be there and have all these colors and being on top of the mountains, looking over the sky and see this. But no, it was also something from the start that we were very clear about, not to lose ourselves in picturesque, and always put the characters first and make them part of the landscape, and the landscape, treat the landscape as a character, if you know what I mean. But
Hmm.
of course, like on a human level, like on a crew level, if you finish a scene and it was in the jungle and it's like extremely hot and all these insects, and it's very rewarding to jump into a river and to let yourself take down on the stream to have to have your lunch, like 10 minutes down. So yeah, or to do a hike in the mountains on your day off, or have a temescal in this beautiful mountain area on your day off to to regain to regain power and spirit. It's amazing. It's That's also part of the filmmaker's life, if you want. But no, on a creative level, I think it's important not to be carried away and lose yourself into beauty of nature.
I You mentioned how you treated the locations like characters. That was one aspect I really enjoyed. How distinct each location felt from one another, and how you presented each location. From the very almost claustrophobic nature of the jungle to the complete chaos that is the river, to the very serene and open and almost endless feeling that was brought from the mountains. They all felt so distinct and unique, and that was very refreshing to see in a film. So, what was it like working with a cast that was mainly made up of non actors and first time actors?
Yeah, that was great. We had to. It was like I was telling you, like there was this um, training period, um, both physical, but also like there was also like an acting class. Um, we had Moises, who plays Pata Grande, who's like very very talented actor, um, who just disguised into the group, but was of course from the inside a very big inspiration to the, especially to the younger kids, like to Pitufo or to Rambo, just to motivate them. And then the group dynamic was also a big part because they it was just a group dynamic that pushed them into all these challenges. And of course the work of Alejandro and Alexis to inspire them. Um, then there was of course just the whole part. The kids were like living the film, um, um, and they all came from different areas in Colombia. So they all brought their personality, and they were like, yeah, they all came from different places, and I think that connected them very well. That they all started from the same starting point, not knowing no one, and then the group cemented. And also the way Julianne Nicholson, when she arrived, like playing the doctora and being their kind of course prisoner, but also their mother and yeah, and mentor. And then of course they're looking up on the how an amazing actress she is, and then on a human level, what an example she is, like how to cope with these circumstances. So for us, it was great because the spirit or the reality that these kids brought was just amazing. Um, yeah, and of course the Alejandro did an amazing job giving them the trust and and uh, and yeah, the trust is to be and believe in what they were doing was right, and to capture their energy. Yeah, so no, it was amazing. I think it was great. Yes, I agree. Now Moises is a big talent, and I'm sure he's gonna and he's yeah, he's gonna do incredible. Yeah, his timing and his acting, and yeah, and also as a person, I think that was also definitely in a film like this. Like you have films in which professional actors and natural cast can clash a little bit because of their different approach, or but in this case, they just and also that's the same with Julianne. They just emerged into it, and that's really really special and very very unique. Also, it's not easy for a professional actor.
So, how did it feel when you saw the film, like the final product, for the very first time, with the final cut, with all the music and editing, everything, coloring? What was the feeling you had when you finished watching the final cut of the film?
It was amazing. We, of course, you see the film through all the all the stages. Um, like Alejandro sent you edits and then re-edits, and then the music came, and we were like doing color grading, and then there was sound design, and then we did another round of color grading, and then there was more. The music came to place, and of course, like Mika Levy, the composer of the film, but also the sound design. They are really, really special. And but then you see the film for the first time with an audience, and that was in the Sundance in the film festival, and I was very happy that I had time and to join and to come to Sundance to see the film for the first time with a crowd, with just a full house, and that was just amazing because then it's like it's such a different thing of seeing your film in a private screen when you're polishing the color grading, or you just see it when it's like completely finished, and especially with an audience, and you feel how when the people get quiet, when they get tensed, when just the reactions. So yes, and so it was great. And then we were standing in a couple of days later. We were standing in a line for a not totally different film in Sundance, and then to hear people speaking about Monos uh, behind you, not knowing that you're the film one of the filmmakers, and then just hearing them rave about it. That was those kind of experiences are very, very rewarding and very cool, of course.
That must have felt surreal, just hearing people um, oblivious that you were right in front of them and just completely singing the highest of praises about your work. That sounds absolutely amazing. Um,
Yeah,
so you mentioned Mika Levy's score, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. When listening to the film's score over your visuals, did it make you look at your work in a different way? Did it give a different perspective to your visuals?
yeah. I always think it does. Like the music or like the sound or the it 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 it's just it makes it complete, or like it's like it's yeah, the one doesn't go without the other. And like Alejandro was from the start, he was kind of feeding with kind of this drone inspirational music. So we were kind of we were already a little bit, of course, in how he would treat sound and how he wanted to treat music. But of course, hearing for the first time the what Mika did was like incredible, and also the sounds. Like to give you an example, like in the preparation, he gave me all these soundscapes of these monkeys, like very deep in the forest, like when they are like getting aroused, and you have this very intense monkey sounds, animal sounds, which also are very drone like. But no, and this is one of the magical things of cinema. I think if you get this, you hit this sweet spot between cinematography, music, sound, and it becomes like the film. That's then it's complete. If you know what I mean. Yeah. No, so I was amazed by it.
So, if you had to rank the feature film projects you've worked on in terms of the difficulty and the challenges that it brought, where would you put Monos?
Yeah, it's very easy to put Monos on top because it was as we started um, to quote it again, it was a beast of a movie. Yeah, so proudly at one Monos, and yeah, of course you could say that's easy, but I did another film called Atlantic, which was a movie which took place on the ocean, which was also pretty tough. So that makes it even more special. No, but Monos was definitely above the list at number one.
So, Monos does have quite a lot of underwater sequences. How did you approach those in the pre-production stage, and how what was your approach to them when shooting?
Like in the storyboarding, or not storyboarding because we didn't really draw, but or not that much, but in the shot listing, in the decoupage stage, we kind of just like the rest of the film, we just envisioned how we would see the scenes, and and talked about it, and found and wrote it down. And then there was already this kind of possibility that, or Alejandro had approached, when we were talking about underwater operators or underwater equipment, and then he had this line, with Peter Sigorini. So we were just hoping that he would have time to come to our film, but I was not sure yet. Of course, he was very busy. He did big films. We knew that he has this kind of um, thing that he always does or wants to do, one indie film a year, in between his bigger projects. So um, Alejandro just kind of, um, had approached him, and we were just waiting on a response and hoping that he would come to work with us. Um, of course, there was also kind of a plan B in my mind, that what would happen if he would not come, and possibility of um, um, doing it myself with the underwater house, getting other underwater cinematographers to come. So we envisioned all the shots that we wanted, also the way they wanted to do into the river. It was also like we wanted to have quite some uh, little insects and bubbles and little underwater second unit work, if you like. So I think that also attracted Peter, that he would could just be there in this jungle, in this amazing location, and to be able to shoot some second unit work as well. Um, but then when he came, of course, it was great because he has so much experience and has the best equipment that you can wish for. So we could really put the the bar high, and go for the ultimate. Like these kind of shots of people jumping into the water, and it seems easy, but it's really hard to shoot that on a real location, in a real waterfall stream, and at the same time having a lookout on the safety of your actors. So he was a superhero, and yeah, we couldn't have done it without him. So that was amazing.
Watching Monos, you can really tell just the amount of hard work and effort from everyone involved. It seemed like such a insane amount of care and work was put into the film, and it really pays off because it delivers one of the most unique watching experiences you will have. And just in terms of the current film landscape, when there's a lot of films that feel interchangeable with one another, where remakes and sequels are dominating the market, it's amazing to see just such a unique and visceral indie film like Monos that just gives you a completely new experience in terms of filmmaking. So, what advice would you have for aspiring filmmakers and aspiring cinematographers?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I would just recommend to follow your own interests, and to just follow your own senses, and to try to be unique in that way. And of course, it's also appealing to become a very good craftsman, and but I would, in the first place, I would just follow your heart, and try to be like master of your own interest, and your and your and try to envision it like you personal would see it. And um and there is so much to learn, like not only in the craft of our work, like the cinematography, the photography, but also in the acting, the directing, the production design, art. Yeah, going into nature is like also like such a huge inspiration, just to be there alone, and to think how you would see something. I guess the art of envisioning things is also something that you can always practice. And even in times now, like with COVID, in the beginning, and we were like, okay, what can we do? um, is to start thinking out with filmmakers of projects for the future. And it's very very rewarding. Even that you know that not everything will come to life, unfortunately, but still like keeping your mind working and awake and dreaming up possible films. I think that's something that aspiring filmmakers should train themselves into as much as they can.
So, what are some of your upcoming projects that you have coming out soon, and where can we see them?
Yes, I finished a film. I just mentioned it's called Paradise Drifters, which was we spoke shortly about. It's shot on Super 16. It's directed by it was a debut film of director Mace Pijnenburg. It was shown in Berlin and just came out in the Dutch cinemas. And I'm really hoping that it would pick up in the world because it's a very energetic film. So we will see if it will travel a bit more. It was invited to some festivals, but of course, in these crazy times, that's mostly online, unfortunately. Um, I'm now in the preparation of a new film of uh, Dutch director Halina Reijn, which I shot Instinct, which is actually, we just heard yesterday, being nominated for the European Film Awards for the best debut film. So we are prepping her second film, which hopefully we're going to shoot in the early next year. Yeah, and there's more projects that hopefully we'll start shooting next year, and projects in the pipeline for a little bit further on. Um, but yeah, that's it for now, I guess.
Awesome. So, this is around the end of our interview, but before the interview stops, do you have the floor to promote whatever you want? Any upcoming works or your old films? You can just promote whatever you want now.
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. But I'm really happy that yeah, to talk with you, and I'm sure you're connected well to the Asian film industry, to film culture, and also the international one, of course. Um, so I don't think I have a specific film to promote other one than the one that I just mentioned, Paradise Drifters. And yeah, I'm looking forward very much to all the new films that are coming on my path. And thank you for inviting me for this nice conversation.
Oh, of course, it's my honor. It's an honor to interview such an amazing cinematographer, an amazing filmmaker. Make sure you watch Monos. It's on Hulu in the United States and iTunes. It's out on Blu-ray, DVD. It's everywhere. So it's one of the best films of last year and one of the best visual films of all time. So do definitely check it out. So, yep, that's our episode for today. Thank you for listening. Do make sure to subscribe and make sure you check out Paradise Drifters
And models,
coming
of course.
soon.